Today, we get to dive into grace. Acts 15 recounts a point in time when the early church had to face their differences and come together to understand the gospel, Christ's death and resurrection on the cross, in its purest form and without past traditions. To summarize, Peter basically addresses the apostles and the elders saying, hey, we as Jews couldn't even keep all the laws of Moses. Why would we place that heavy burden on the Gentiles as they're hearing about Jesus? Jesus came to set us free from this. Jesus is all we need. The very foundation for salvation for those who choose to put their faith in Jesus is based on God's grace, not on the law, not on our list of do's or don'ts. Paul writes in Ephesians 2, 8 and 9, God saved you by his grace when you believed, and you can't take credit for this. It's a gift from God. Salvation is not a reward for the good things we have done, so none of us can boast about it. If God, in his great love for us, gifted us salvation through his grace or undeserved favor, how do we not just receive it, but extend that to others? Let's look to John 8 for some insight. When Jesus went to the Mount of Olives at dawn, he appeared again in the temple courts, where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commands us to stone such women. Now, what do you say?" They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. And when they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "If any one of you is without sin, let him be the first to throw a stone at her." Again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. And at this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first, only until Jesus was left with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then neither do I condemn you," Jesus declared. "Go now and leave your life of sin." So, what does the story show us about how we can interact with each other with grace? For starters, we have to examine our own posture and motives before God and others. The story shows how the accusers came in with hearts full of condemnation for her. Notice nobody was asking Jesus for help. However, when Jesus challenges the group to examine their own hearts, they were able to more accurately see their own prideful motivations as well as their need for grace, just as the woman was in desperate need of grace. What if we likened this story to us today? What if we're just like the accusers, ready to point out all the things others around us aren't doing right in following Jesus? Sure, our hand may not hold a literal rock. Perhaps we're armed with judgmental thoughts or a prideful attitude. What if we honestly evaluated our own posture and motives before God and others? Then we will see that we truly can never earn God's grace. It really is a gift. And while the details of our lives may be different, the reality is we're just like the person next to us, doing our best, but so far from perfect. So what if we put down the rock? But instead of just walking away, what if we approach others with love and grace? Maybe it says something like, "Hey, I'm sorry. I know I've added to your load." Or, "I see you. I see your struggle, and I will not leave you alone to deal with it." Grace looks a lot like putting down the rock, and instead of just walking away, approaching others with love as our motive.